This is Jason from the East Life Channel, welcoming you to the first edition of Jason Reads the Headlines. And today is Sunday, April 5th. Temperature is about 58 degrees and a 10% chance of rain. And the air quality is 37, which is good. And today the sun rose at 6:42 in the morning. According to the BBC, what we know so far about the search for the missing U.S. airmen in Iran. Let's see if this... Oh, I got an error. I guess we'll learn about the missing airmen in Iran later on today. Let's see here. Let's go on to the next one. According to NPR News, judge halts Trump's effort requiring college to show they don't consider race in administration efforts here. In Boston, a federal judge has halted the efforts by Trump administration to collect data that proves the higher education institutions aren't considering race in admissions. The ruling for the U.S. District Court Judge F. Dennis Saylor in Boston on Friday, granting the preliminary injunction following the lawsuit filed this month by a coalition of 17 Democratic state attorney generals. It will only apply to public universities in plaintiffs. Well, that's a relief. It doesn't, for those of you in college, it's something to consider when you're enrolling. Honestly, community college is the best thing for me. We're going to head on to the next one. CBS News. Ousted Army Chief of Staff General Randy George says U.S. soldiers deserve courageous leaders of character in an outgoing email. Ousted Army Chief of Staff General Randy George told Pentagon officials in an outgoing email that U.S. soldiers deserve courageous leaders of character after defense attorney Pete Hegseth asked him to step down, take immediate retirement. Everybody wants their own opinions if they've been ousted, for sure. Manhunt for Matthew J. Massey. Law enforcement officials are searching for a 38-year-old man, Matthew J. Massey, after the alleged shot of a Nottingham Police Department officer Saturday afternoon. The incident began with Massey reportedly firing at family members in a home in Raymond. Residents remain under a shelter-in-place order, and a tactical team search for the suspect, who is considered armed and dangerous. Wow, talk about a family dispute here. Must have been home for the holidays, had too much eggnog, and the fight ensued. Mean to make light of it, but, come on, folks. Let's, kinder, gentler to our people, especially around the holidays. So travel and leisure. I've lived in California for 50 years, and this is the best city to visit during spring, with farms, vineyards, and flowers. Storied coastline to mountain peaks, California is peppered with gorgeous small towns. But one corner of the Golden State seems to be chronically overlooked by travelers, the Central Valley. I recently visited Modesto, California, one of the largest cities of the Central Valley, in the mid-March, and the Almond Blossom Cruise. The area is home to the largest pollination event in the world, when billions of honeybees spend a month among the blossom. Wow, that does sound incredibly beautiful, and for those of you who are allergic to honeybees, probably not a great idea. Anyway, for those who aren't, go check that out. We've got Cuba released over 2,000 prisoners, and the Cuban government released over 2,000 prisoners on Saturday, describing the mass pardon as humanitarian gesture for the Holy Week. While officials say the move is traditional, it becomes amid a severe fuel crisis and a pressure from the Trump administration oil blockade. Human rights groups note that the release did not include any of the island's known political prisoners. See here, doctors and nurses arrested in Southern California and healthcare fraud investigation? Oh my, come on. These are the people that provide you with health. Los Angeles U.S. News Department of Justice Thursday announced what they called a major healthcare fraud takedown throughout Southern California, which included the arrest of doctors and nurses. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Essay II was joined during the press conference by several law enforcement agencies, including the FBI. Dr. Mehmet Oz, head of the Centers for Medical and Medical Services, said they were served a series of search and arrest warrants through the region, Covina to Lakewood in Los Angeles County. 8 people were arrested. More than a dozen are being charged for suspected health fraud. Oh my. Those people made some poor life decisions, in my opinion. Here, what we got. Al Jazeera News says U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has revoked the permanent residency of 2 women and released Qasem Soleimani, the late Major General who led Iraq Quds Force from 1998 until his assassination in 2020. We've got CBS News from 14. First Artemis 2 Earth photos. The Artemis 2 crew released the first high-quality images of the Earth and Orion capsule following the mission's success translunar injection burn. The commander Reed Wiseman captured stunning views of the planet, including auroras and the sunset. The 4 astronauts are currently traveling towards the moon with a pivotal lunar flyby scheduled for Monday. Wow, what an exciting time we live in, folks. Going to space, flying around the moon for the first time in 50 years. It is just absolutely fantastic. Stay tuned to that. It's an exciting story. Hershey's restores classic chocolate recipes. The Hershey's company announced that it will return several products to its classic milk and dark chocolate recipes starting next year. The move follows a public criticism from the consumers and Brad Reese, grandson of the Reese's creator, regarding the use of cocoa alternatives. Hershey says these changes will primarily affect seasonal shapes in mini cups, while the flagship bars remain unchanged. I think the move towards making the candies taste a little less like wax is probably a good idea. Let's see here, what other news we've got. See, The Economist. What does The Economist have to say? People fleeing calamity have the right to seek safety, but that does not mean access to a rich country's labor market. That's an interesting concept there, huh? Because if you have a rich labor market, it insinuates that you have jobs aplenty. We'll see what happens with that. Wild Robot streams on Peacock. Animated film featuring the voices of Pedro Pascal and Lupita Nyong'o is now available on Peacock. It follows a robot adapting to the island life, forming unexpected family bond. You never know what, when you go out into the world, you never know who you're going to meet. You might meet somebody that is so influential in your life and does such a positive thing that you consider them family. So that's a good kind of heartwarming story here. Oh no, this has probably been a problem forever. Schools struggle to block games. Students are bypassing school firewalls to play Five Nights at Epstein's independent horror game featuring the convicted sex offender. The game's use of real Department of Justice evidence has raised alarms among parents and educators. Despite the school's efforts to block the sites, children continue to access the content through the workarounds like Google Docs and browser-based mirrors. Wow. It just goes to show that people will go to no end to expose what kind of bad people are in the world up to and including making a video game to educate young folks about the dangers that exist in this world. I don't agree with playing the video game at school. School's for schoolwork, not games. But I do believe that educating the public on the dangers that are out there is an important thing, and if they can do it through a video game, good for them. Let's see here. California's voting right debate. California officials are weighing a state law, voting rights, to act to safeguard elections. Attorney General Rob Bonta's official asked the state Supreme Court to block a Riverside County ballot seizure, labeling it illegal. Meanwhile, a Republican-backed voter ID measure qualified for November. Critics like Angelica Salica of the ACLU called the initiative suppression, while supporters say it prevents fraud. I don't know. I think they have all kinds of ways of cutting up the voting areas into making the votes turn out the way they want them to. Yeah, I mean, we need to revise some stuff about how we vote. Some of my views offend people, so this isn't that type of show right now. I'm just reading the headlines. It might be a totally different show. Okay, let's see here. World news. Starmer unveils energy security plan. Okay, on Wednesday, Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the UK will not enter the war in the Middle East despite raising fuel costs. With the Strait of Hormuz closed and the government is extending fuel duty cuts and reducing energy bills by £100 per household, Starmer says the long-term security depends on domestic renewables and closer partnerships with European allies. Man, that is a big old mess. It's trying to create a war and make a war without destroying infrastructure that is important to the whole entire world, not just the region. Kind of a touchy subject there. Anyhow, we're going to go to Santa Ana winds fuel wildfires. Strong Santa Ana winds fueling dangerous wildfires across Southern California. The Springs fire has burned over 4,100 acres in Moreno Valley, while the Crown fire in action has scorched hundreds of acres. Mandatory evacuations remain in effect as wind advisories and warnings continue through Saturday afternoon with gusts up to 60 miles an hour. Wow, that is like I can't imagine being in something like that. It seems like, the necessity to start over again from scratch is going to be affecting a lot of people here. Heart and prayers go out to the folks that are affected by that. See here, lawsuit challenges ICE arrest tactics. The ACLU is suing the Department of Homeland Security over allegations that ICE agents use secret memos to authorize warrantless home raids. Data from the recent Minnesota crackdown shows more than 60% of the detainees had no criminal record. Meanwhile, supporters are calling for the release of Milwaukee community leader Sala Salazar after federal agents detained him on Monday. And now Bloomberg Television, Middle East war pressures prices. Rising energy costs from the Middle East conflict expected to fuel higher U.S. inflation, while National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett highlights strong job growth. Analyst Steve Ratner warns that disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz could push inflation towards 4.2. Financial expert at Charles Schwab anticipate that price pressure will persist as food costs remain elevated. And that is Sunday, April 5th news headlines. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to a segment called Jason Reads the Headlines, where I, Jason, read the headlines of the week and kind of give my input and 2 cents on how I feel about each situation. Thank you for tuning in, and now back to the show.